We're TMAC. We help businesses make better decisions faster. We specialize in delivering artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions quickly, but to a high standard in customer engagement, marketing, customer service, and coaching. We believe that everything has been done before and that it can be done quickly. So, if you're tired of being told to wait whilst also being overcharged, visit our website at tmac.ai/vid for more information.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Mathieu. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for the Modular Analytics Company, and I'm really excited to share these two wonderful speakers with you today. So our very own Paul Banks is here, and he's joined by Steve Mathieu. I'm going to give both of them some time to introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk about Steve's awesome new book, The Pineapple Theory. So Paul, why don't you introduce yourself and kick us off?
Thanks very much, Mike. Pleasure to be here. Steve, nice to have you on board with us this afternoon. A little bit about myself. So spent most of my working adult career in retail in various leadership capacities around the retail functions, lots of back office experience. Predominantly gravitated towards loss prevention as part of what I was doing, as I was also working as a volunteer police officer, and went hand in hand together. And the experiences that I've kind of learned from that have really shaped where I've gone with my career and where I'm going with it now. And in July of last year, I joined, as Mike said, the Modular Analytics Company, and really excited about where things are going right now and the product pipeline that's coming up. Steve?
Well, I'm Steve. I'm speaking to you from Montreal in Canada. French is my born native language, so that's why you're going to hear this beautiful French Canadian accent of mine for a few minutes. I'm managing loss prevention and safety for 20 years now, most specifically in the retail and supply chain sector. If I had to use 5 words to describe myself, I would say funny, even if 80% of the time I'm not funny. I just laugh at myself. I'm definitely authentic, creative, focus, and I'm an introvert who acts like an extrovert. So I'm definitely sleeping well at night because of that.
It's fantastic. Thanks so much, guys. So we're going to jump right into it. So I want to ask you guys, first of all, because I think it's quite interesting and it speaks to the these strange times we live in. But how did the two of you meet?
Well, I guess this is exactly what LinkedIn should be. Paul posted a thought, a question. He was possibly curious about something in regards of LP professionals with the interaction on social media. I commented, and I don't even recall if we were already in the same contacts or not, if we were already part of our own networks. But that was a huge trigger, and from there, I think we've been exchanging each other messages almost daily. And from there, I started talking about some personal experience, my style, some ideas that I had in regards of future vision with the field of loss prevention. It really correlated with Paul. And from there, I started writing the books, and he's been quite a huge help because again, English is not my first language, so I definitely needed quite a hand for the editing. But that's how it all started with LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think I'd originally sort of started looking into how AI and data science could impact on the loss prevention world from a TMAC Modular Analytics Company point of view. Steve is somebody who's very, very active on LinkedIn, and appreciated some of the posts that he put out. I sort of had a very similar synergy to my own personal thoughts and processes. And again, that kind of married up with how we were thinking in the business, in terms of we wanted to understand how a loss prevention platform could begin to bridge the gap between detection of fraudulent activity or internal theft and the prevention of it in the first place. Where we are is very much in the way of how do we help people become or stay honest, What's the right thing to do as an employer? What's the ethically right choice to have? And yes, there'll always be an element of detection involved in loss prevention, but the right thing to do is to focus on how to prevent that in the first place, and the business case for that is so much bigger than just on the detection alone. And when me and Steve sort of got to talking and realized that it was far more than just having a joined symmetry in terms of how we approach things, but Steve's approach with the pineapple theory very much tied into what our thinking was, where we wanted our solution to go.
That's so interesting. So, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is the pineapple theory all about?
All right. So the pineapple theory is a tool to help build an inner foundation to improve more positive interactions in the workplace. So by doing so, it definitely allows to be more engaging with a workforce. And if we have positive interaction, it means that we're managing our emotions at a positive level, and we are able to masterize the art of doing so. And if a team is what I'm actually sharing the pineapple theory is the acknowledgement that if we acknowledge a business culture and their values as the top asset, what usually is known to be people as top asset, people will feel even more important because it changes completely how we are approaching every single program, and most importantly, how we are approaching the workforce. And this is the main opportunity when I want to isolate that in the field of loss prevention and safety. This is definitely where there's a huge opportunity to really engage even more. And if people are feeling well engaged, there's a lot of care. The awareness is completely different. So this is why I'm trying to teach in the pineapple theory, but most importantly is really to improve more positive interaction, no matter your field of expertise.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's an amazing topic. So, Paul, from your point of view, as a consultant, do you feel like you see that a lot when you're working with clients?
Yeah, I think loss prevention has probably gone on a journey over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think more and more it's been recognized in retail that the right thing to do is to start and look at the culture of the business and treat everyone in a way that lends itself towards people being more honest in the business. And the right way to do that is to engage them, as Steve says, from the very top. A belief in loss prevention is it's a good thing to have. Some businesses don't even have that belief from the top in loss prevention itself, let alone in the culture of the business. And I think that's a real stepping stone for some businesses. For me, the idea that you could treat the culture of the business as a physical object that could be lost or damaged in a lot of respects is really quite transformational in the way I thought about things, and I really appreciate Steve's input on that.
And I suppose, Steve, so is there something that are there like certain qualities that you could identify in businesses that are doing it well versus those that aren't?
Well, it's so far my experience has been either companies are not doing well, or they say that they want to have a team who's proactive, engaging, who really wants to care of their people, but
Yeah.
the growth that they provide is all technical. It's all about technical skills. There's nothing to improve the interpersonal skill asset. And this is where it's missing a lot of opportunities. So if you want to truly create a positive culture where people come first, well, you need to reflect that culture properly. And if you don't see culture and values as that top asset, it becomes really a challenge. So this is the main thing that I've been acknowledging or actually experiencing so far. It's really the growth of each individual to make that happen more efficiently.
Okay, yeah. So I guess for both of you, then I guess the question would be, how do you get people to really take that kind of control of I suppose like their own immediate culture, and then more broadly people at the top? How do you get them to kind of hit go and start doing it?
I think for me, like, you can take a lesson from businesses that have done well through the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
There are businesses that, and I would describe them, rather than being businesses, I would describe them as brands, which is how you can step them apart, is they have their own brand culture, they have their own belief system, and it was there pre-COVID and it'll be there post-COVID. And those businesses, you know, there's quite a few of them that have done tremendously well throughout. And because they have something to believe in, their customers believe in it, and their customers follow them because they believe in it. And that's not to say that everybody has to create this huge world-encompassing brand, but having that brand at heart of everything that you do is very important. To, you know, when you talk about in retail, you can get some very good store managers who can create their own brand within their store. That's great, that's brilliant, and that's step one. What you then need to do is find more people like that and install them at higher locations in the business, or promote those people through the business, because they're going to bring with them far more benefits and return on investment than what somebody who doesn't care about the brand is going to do, despite any qualifications and experience they might have.
Yeah, and you know what I share a lot of time in volume 1 of the Pineapple Theory is everything starts with the main leader of a company. And that only reason because that person becomes the captain. And what does a captain does once, you know, that captain should lead by example. So if the captain acknowledges in his own company that the most important asset is culture and values, everything will, I call it the waterfall growth effect. So everything will cascade down gradually, baby steps, then they're going to start walking and they're going to start running with that knowledge. And when you go to the entry level, people will also learn from that, and they will keep practicing because they're going to have good coaches, and you have that circle, the water growth effect. So this is something that I share a lot, and everything starts from the top. And you know, we hear a lot in businesses, B2B, B2C, so you know, the business environment, social environment, but H to H, human to human. Let's simplify this. And if we work human to human, it no matter where you are interacting or with who, for what, you're gonna think of a human, and humans have emotions. And look at future generation, the super Gen X that are coming, etc. It's all about the care. It's all about what's happening with the emotion and within their mind. And they're going to be looking for these companies that provide a lot of care before anything else. And this is something, I'm just optimistic here, but I'm just bringing that to another level, right?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I think to speak to that as well, I think that's where there's an injection of what we do here at the Modular Analytics Company, and it's about how do we help people who are out in the field, who are in Steve's position, who are managers of LP teams, who are senior managers of LP teams. How do we really help them to get the information they need when they need it, to be able to have those coaching conversations and to really see that the people beneath them flourish as a result of these soft skills coaching conversations, by creating them time to have those conversations in the first place, and really allowing them to unleash their own coaching potential, because it's something that we forget about a lot in retail. We're very good at the base level of let's coach someone, let's, you know, and it turns into, like Steve says, it's a criticism of technical skills. It's not true coaching. And by helping them in that process, we help coaches become better coaches, and we help their senior managers understand where the coach performance is at. And that's something that's completely invisible in that industry right now.
It's so interesting. It's basically like, I guess, changing the focus from tactical conversations to something which is much more strategic. And Steve, like, speaking to your earlier point, it's so interesting to hear. I guess you see a lot of senior leaders today, especially, I suspect, post-COVID, and maybe Paul, you can talk to this in your experience as well, but where you have people who are pulling back on spend, especially when it comes to things like which are perhaps seen as secondary, like and as a marketer, you know, I think the kind of the piece around internal brand values and your external facing brand values are really important. They have to, you know, they're a vital part of how a company makes money. But I think Wow. Are you guys seeing much of that? Are you guys seeing much of like many changes in terms of like, senior leaders where they're kind of pulling the spend for that sort of thing? And if so, how are you guys dealing with that?
I think it's safe to say, Steve, I'm sure you'll agree with me, but I think loss prevention is often the first casualty of financial difficulties for a business. It's almost spending money to prevent money being lost.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's easy to justify reducing that department from a business operations point of view. But quite often, what gets lost in that conversation is the safety and health and welfare of the staff that are, protected by security guards in an old conventional sense. But also, like I think there's now a movement towards senior leaders are starting to see the value in the data that loss prevention teams have traditionally held, and there's also a movement from loss prevention now starting to become more commonly profit protection, which is a very different take on the same thing. So instead of just worrying about how to prevent items or cash being stolen from the business, how do we then move to creating positive changes that increase spend, increase turnover, increase revenue for a business?
Yeah, and then you know what? This is a really good point. And that switch to profit protection, it changes completely the vision or how to acknowledge a P&L. Literally, you need to go in through every single line of a P&L. So right there, you're talking about retention. So how can we be part of supporting a good retention within a company? And again, the main asset, culture and values will be the core of a lot of things, because even how we are approaching the programs or how we are going to bring new technologies in the company will make us different. And this is something that I've shared with Paul prior today is there's great technology out there, great initiative. Companies want to invest, but are they utilizing that technology to truly caring to keep their people on board to deter them efficiently? And I was sharing the example of the smart tills. So they want to have labor efficiency, so they don't have to manual count money. Smart till will let you know how much there is in the till. But what if we bring that to another level where if somebody takes money out of the till because they have the intention to steal it, why is there any alert on the screen so that lets you know, hey, you're short $20 right now? Like, it's not supposed to happen. So they just put it back. They're like, oh shoot, these things are really working now. There's still that culture of wanting to innovate where, well, let's catch them. Yeah, things will happen. LP definitely needs to take care of that small percentage, and it's called the 10-80-10 approach, where you have that 10% that no matter the tools, no matter the approach, no matter anything, they will do it. Just like someone drinking and driving, like no matter the awareness, they know they should do it, but they still do it. So it's really similar, but how are we approaching it? And if we acknowledge that culture and value, and we, with that profit protection approach where you focus on every single expense on the P&L, even the tools in that innovation, how can we truly maximize its usage? And I think this is where a TMAC product was in good correlation, because it really maximizes that awareness and coaching with the team. And this is where we kind of definitely kick it off.
It's basically, I guess, it's like the intersection of technology and culture, and in essence, redefining it not only for loss prevention, so that you have, what's seen currently as a cost becoming something of a profit center, but also more broadly redefining how technology and culture might work in kind of a post-COVID era. So, sorry, go ahead.
No,
yeah, oh, sorry about that. Go ahead, Paul.
So I was just going to say, I think the interest in there's an interesting intersection there as well with behavioral science and how that applies to this. And I've always been, I know Steve is as well, like an avid enthusiast in understanding why people do what they do and how they become where they are. And there's definitely a set basic modus operandi for your average person who is being dishonest within any given retailer, and it's different for every retailer slightly, but there's a core element in there around disengagement and feeling entitlement. But to speak to Steve's point about what we're talking about essentially is we're going to prompt people at the point where they're starting to become dishonest, and we're talking about behavioral science nudges. And I guess for us, that's something that at TMAC we're very aware of and we're very conscious of. And I don't think, to my knowledge, that there's a lot of data science companies out there that are thinking from that perspective. It's traditionally a pure data science approach and a data approach. But what if we can combine data science with how people think and provide a truly different solution that helps people interact on a more emotional or a more human level?
And Steve, what were you going to add?
I'm unsure. I guess I lost my point. This is my OCD kicking in right now, where like I had something and whoop, it just got distracted.
Sorry, Steve.
It's a hard thing to follow, because I think what Paul is talking about is, really quite, it's not only very aspirational, but it's something that's worthy of aspiration, if that makes sense. And I think at TMAC, it's part of how, we approach every kind of client challenge, whether they're a big client or a small client, is that how can we use our own empathy as experts, but also technology, and really the internal culture of the business to kind of drive results forward. It's funny, like I feel like maybe we've been doing certain aspects of the pineapple theory without even realizing it, in the sense that we really pride ourselves on being different enough and I suppose proudly different of our ability to go into a business very quickly and sort out their challenges as best we can.
Right, and you bring something interesting, because when you say, well, we realize that we've been doing a few of these things, and this is why the pineapple theory is about building an inner foundation. At some point, this book, not only is it quick and easy to read, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's really written and published in a way that you have a busy lifestyle. You may have 10 kids at home, a dog and a cat, or you may have a busy agenda. You know what? This book, you don't need to plan a day to be on the couch, to be in silence, have your glass of wine. No, it's easy to read. If you take 1.5 minutes a day in a week, you're honestly done reading it. But it's the reflection, the thought process that pushes you to go back to your ground, go back to even your roots, and to discover, yeah, I'm doing this. And this is why I say to improve more positive interaction, meaning that it's not like you're going from nothing. You're not starting from scratch. No, you definitely have something, but it pushes you to go back to your foundation, and you can add a few more things that is being efficiently provided to come back. It's like that slingshot effect, right? Like you go back and you just come back stronger.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I probably had a glass of wine when I was reading it. But
oh yeah, I'm having one for sure. Even when I'm watching TV, I mean, just give me the wine.
I guess that's like lockdown life, I suppose. Well, so I guess just one of my final questions is just thinking about so say we've read your book, we've readjusted we've kind of been reminded of the fact that actually culture is really important, and it can be along with the right technology a way of driving profit as opposed to driving costs. And I wonder, so what are the first steps that senior leaders should be taking to make, I suppose, to sort of renew their culture as a part of their business? Steve, why don't we have you first, and then Paul?
Yeah, that's a good question. What comes in my mind is, I guess it goes back to that initial roadmap, right? What are our top assets right now? What do we work with? What do we actually acknowledge? And we need to be honest with ourselves. Like this is very important. And at some point, when we see things as they are, all right, do we need to redefine what we consider as being asset? And once this is done, and once we bring that culture and value aspect, so then we need to go to the people. So what is the training needed, or what do we need to do to upscale our team to open their mind with that, so they can practice, understand it gradually, right? And a lot of business will put deadlines. It's really tight, but not everybody will grow the same way. I mean, you're gonna feed everyone positively, but some pineapples will grow faster than others. And the beauty of a pineapple, just so you know, a plant only grows one pineapple at a time. So each pineapple will grow differently based on how you're feeding it, right? So everything is connected. Like the roads are all crossing paths. It definitely started by the very first step. What are your top assets? How are they defined? And from there, it goes to the people, because it is human to human. So you need to define that.
I've honestly learned so much about pineapples since we've started talking, Steve. It's amazing. It's truly like, and we laugh about it, but really it does. Once, you know, I've been part of Steve's writing process now since what, September, August maybe. And it really has sort of inspired a lot of the things that I've started talking about and how we've worked. So it's genuinely been fascinating to get to know these quips of information, Steve, and you keep firing them out. I don't expect them, but they keep coming. Yeah. It's really good. For me, my thinking would be around, you know, every business starts off with a why. Why do we come to work? What are we here to do? And you know, your average person's answer is, well, we want to make some money, right? That's not your why. That's a what. That's a consequence of doing your why. What really brought the business together? Who were the founders? What did they believe? What was the principles behind the business in the first place? Get back to those basics and think about how, as a business, you've deviated from where that started off. Because if you're thinking this question now, then you're not already living what Steve's talking about. And then my other bit of advice would be to flip the model upside down. Having worked in stores and worked in regional and worked in national, I firmly, concretely believe that we generally approach loss prevention in the wrong way. And time again, it's about getting the buy-in from the people at the bottom. How do we get cashiers? How do we get cleaners? How do we get caretakers to buy into our loss prevention strategy? Maybe it's the other way around. The business is like a pyramid. You've got very few people at the top and you've got a lot of people at the bottom. And all too often we see the people at the bottom as being the least important. I genuinely don't believe that they are. And any business who can stand up to me and say that that is the case, then I'll argue black and white that they're wrong. Those people add the majority of the hours in your business. They are the make or break between you being successful and not being successful. And the moment you stop seeing them as being the most important people in your world, other than your customers, of course, then that's where things start to break down, because that is realized very, very quickly by those people. So if you flip that pyramid upside down, that person who was at the top takes all the pressure. And that's right. They get, you know, that salary, they get that job title, that they know that that's what they're there for, is to take that pressure. The people who are then the most important become the people who spend the vast majority of their hours in the stores, in the warehouses, in the customer service centers, dealing with the customers who make the business the most money. And I think once you realize that and start treating it the other way around, then it becomes important that you need to invest in those people and invest in the right way. And not, like as Steve says, not technical skills. They can be trained out anytime. You pick them up with experience. They're relatively easy, but creating that culture and soft skills environment in the first place and making your people feel valued as part of the business, I honestly can't value that enough.
It's certainly socially something we've seen with COVID, right? You know, where I think many of the different strata of society, which were considered to be, you know, perhaps stereotypically and unfairly so, you know, jobs which are, you know, just, well, not
glamorous jobs.
Not glamorous jobs, yeah, but end up becoming like actually very, like, you know, wildly essential. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that message, Paul. Steve, was there anything you wanted to add just as we close down?
Yeah, well, based on what Paul shared, and I'm looking at my book right now because there's a powerful quote by Zig Ziglar that will summarize what Paul said. He once quoted, "You don't build a business, you build people, and then people build a business." So when you look at that pyramid, indeed, people are at the bottom, and you got to take care of every single level, but don't underestimate that bottom level because they're at the front line of everything, every single program out there, and they will make a huge difference for your business. They're going to build it.
It's a great last word. Empathy matters, and we definitely believe that at TMAC as well. So, guys, thanks so much for being with us today. It's been a special edition of TMAC Talks. You can find Steve Mathieu's book, The Pineapple Theory, on Amazon. We'll also do a write-up on our blog. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time for the next edition of TMAC Talks. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Steve.